Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Team of the Season. It's a pretty short season, old Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, which made the gathering of the stats slightly easier for this one. Once again, I've gone through the 5 rounds plus the final, compiled all the stats. My wife has worked some wizardry on Excel. And I've gone ahead and picked 15 people. I will also do some honourable mentions because it is a team of the season. But anyway, we'll pick 15 of the best players from that Super Rugby Trans-Tasman season. You guys can let me know your thoughts on who you would have had in your team. Props. I've gone with the Blues man and Alex Hodgman. One of many All Blacks in that Blues front row, to be fair. Finishes the season with some pretty impressive numbers. He has an 89% tackling percentage, makes 8.2 tackles a game. So kind of not the highest, but up there in terms of both his work rate and his completion. He ran 11.2 run meters per game, which is pretty solid for a prop. More than most, kind of upper end of the spectrum for all the props. 2 turnovers won throughout the competition, but amazingly, no penalties conceded. For a prop is virtually unheard of, and no turnovers conceded. That is a phenomenal, bizarre shift, and he was putting on some proper pressure at scrum time. So I've put a Blues man there. I've gone with a Lander on the other side. Kind of a different style. Similar in that he wasn't very highly penalised on Siate Tokolahi. He's not a big ball-carrying prop. Like, if you want a guy like Tani Alatupo who'll get you a load of run meters and tackle like 50%, then he's your action man. But if you want just a solid guy who's going to put some effort in at scrum time, Tokolahi is your man. It's hard to quantify the scrummaging in the stats, but you guys know what it looks like on the field. 93% tackle percentage, 7 tackles a game is not the highest, but he's not too far behind Hodgman in terms of the average number he made per game, and his completion rate is higher. He conceded 3 penalties throughout the tournament, beat a couple of defenders, and his ball and hand stuff is virtually non-existent, to be honest. But for me, that's a secondary one when you're picking a prop. Number one is your scrummaging, and the Highlander set piece was pretty bloody good. Speaking of Highlander set piece, I kind of was having a shootout between Dixon and Eklund for the number 2 jersey. I ended up going with Dixon just because of how deadly their lineout was. The fact that he gets 4 tries also doesn't hurt. He finishes with 8.1 run meters as his average number per game. He has 3.5 carries. Tackle completion rate is 94%, which is likewise phenomenal. Their lineout numbers were incredibly high, in the 90s in terms of the completion percentage. 9.1 tackles per game is also pretty high. Won a couple of turnovers. He did get a pretty bloody costly yellow card in that final, and it could have been red. But apart from that, he's been a good co-captain for the side. Led the boys pretty well. Always a good influence on the game. And like I said, their maul was a proper thing of beauty. And if he doesn't get that right at the try-scoring moment, or if he doesn't get it right line-out time, then the whole thing kind of goes to custard. So, Ash Dixon for mine as hookup. Locks. I managed to get an Aussie guy in here, an old Lukan Salakaya Lotto. He is proper dynamic, more so than we see from most guys who play in the second row. Averages 23 run meters a game, which for, as I said, a lock is pretty massive. His tackling percentage is 85%, which is like pretty good without being like top echelon. Averages 1 clean break a game, which again for a lock is just stupidly high. A defender beaten a game. 21 line-out wins across the competition, 3 line-out steals, and 6.6 passes a game means his number of kind of passing moments, ball in hand, is higher than any of the locks in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman averaged per game. So he is a key cog in everything that the Reds were putting forward. So you can expect to see lots from him in Wallaby Gold against the French pretty shortly, I would imagine. The other lock I've gone with is a Blues man, is old Patrick Tupulotu. Captained the Blues to their first trophy in 18 years, which is worthy of a comment in its own. He beats 1.8 defenders per game, which is top for the locks. He was really carrying the ball well. Didn't quite average as many run meters as Salakaia-Loto, but he wasn't too far behind with an average of 20. His tackling percentage was higher, 92%. 15 line-out wins, 4 line-out steals. I think him and Kauli Tuioti were the top line-out steal guys in the comp. Finishes the comp with a try and a try assist. Proper shift from our Cappy. Big Paddy. Loose forwards. Now, I didn't pick many guys who only played 3 games, but I could not omit Ethan Blackadder. He only played 3 games, but goodness gracious me. For loose forwards, especially guys who slotted in at 6, 1.3 clean breaks per game, first of all the loosies. 2.3 defenders beaten per game, second. 58 average run meters per game, first. 15 average tackles a game, first. 90% tackling completion. This is not including like Billy Harmon, not including guys who are exclusively 7s, guys who dropped into 6 as well. 90% tackle completion, didn't concede any penalties, scored a try. Goodness gracious me, he was just immense. Oh, I wish that guy would stay fit for a full season at some point, because he is just honestly next level brilliant. He's got a huge future in him. If he can just bloody stay fit, it's a brutal one for him. Other loose forwards, I've gone with Dalton Papali'i from the Blues. Not a hugely tough pick, but there were some other guys who certainly put their hands up for number 7. He has 7 turnovers, 1, which is the 3rd best of the comp. 98% tackling rate. I think he missed 1 tackle in the comp. And of all the guys who made 50 or more tackles, he is the first. I think Pari Parkinson had 100% as a lock, but he was in the 40s in terms of the number of tackles he made. Averaged 15.4 run meters a game, which is above a lot of the guys who had high tackling rates actually. Made 4 clean breaks, scored 2 tries, beat 6 defenders. A huge shift from Papali'i in getting the Blues to that final as well. And I've managed to sneak in another Aussie here because Harry Wilson is also next level incredible. And number 8 was super competitive. The guy had 2.25 clean breaks a game. As a number 8, that is bonkers. He's first by a mile. 3 defenders beaten a game. 80 run meters a game. 8-0. That's more than a lot of the wingers got. It's more than some of the wingers I have picked in this team of the tournament. 12.25 tackles a game. His tackle rate is his one kind of flaw at 82%. It could be a bit higher, but his overall tackling rate is higher than a lot. Scores 2 tries, get 2 try assists in a team which loses 4 games. Pretty bloody good. Another man come Wallabies naming time will certainly be one of the first names off the team sheet, surely, although they do have a lot of good number 8s. Scrum half, I don't think there's a heck of a lot of debate in Aaron Smith. You could argue a few other guys, but man, Aaron Smith's been bloody good. 7 try assists in the comp is first. He averaged 62.6 passes a game, which is 3rd. Interestingly, seeing as the Highlanders didn't often play with that much possession, it speaks to his speed of getting to that breakdown. Also the number of minutes he plays. He often plays close to a full game, whereas like the Crusaders guys share the minutes pretty evenly. He scores 2 tries, which is first equal for scrum halves. His just way he drives the team forward is something you can't quite categorize in stats, but he was having a good shift. Almost pushed his team through to a trophy, but not quite. Tackling percentage is 69%, which is not great. He'd like that to be a bit higher, obviously, but for a scrum half, we won't hold that too much against him. First 5, I've gone with Richie Mo'unga, another guy who it's kind of hard to debate, man. His numbers are just too high. He gets 9 clean breaks. He has 6.25 defenders beaten per game, which is first in Trans-Tasman for any position. He's just such an elusive guy. 86.5 run meters a game, 6th overall in the competition, first for a number 10. 68 points is first in the competition, has 3 try assists. His tackling rate's even 84%, which for a fly half's pretty bloody good. What doesn't he do, man? Do it at All Blacks level, Richie. Come on. He's been just phenomenal. He's been, at some points, he's unplayable, man. At Super Rugby level, anyway. Midfield, I have gone with a Hurricane in Nani Laumape. And man, when I read these numbers, it makes me think the All Blacks are going to miss this guy. We've got a few injuries in the midfield. Laumape, 2.75 clean breaks a game. First among midfielders. 5.75 defenders beaten per game. First among midfielders. 75.75 run meters per game. First among midfielders. 90% tackle completion is bloody high. His overall tackle number is quite low though. 4.5 tackles a game is at the lower end. A lot of the guys were making kind of 10, 11, 12 tackles a game. He gets 2 tries and a try assist. But bro, that guy with ball in hand is just deadly. And if the All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby apparently tried to lowball him in terms of his offer, well, he's going to earn his money somewhere else, man. He puts in a shift. He's got to look after himself and his family. Rugby career is not the longest one you will have. Midfielder on the other side, I've gone with ALB. And to be honest, I considered a couple of other guys pretty closely. I'll go over them in a wee bit. But ALB, his 2.2 offloads per game is the first by a mile for midfielders. He was certainly creating a lot with his ability to get rid of the ball in the tackle. He has 3 tries, which is first equal for midfielders. He has a try assist, 6 tackles a game. His turnovers conceded is 0.4 per game. So very safe pair of hands, despite the fact that he's the top offloader, kind of speaks to his skill set. Like all the other guys had a much higher rate of errors when they're seeing the ball. 3.8 defenders beaten per game. That's third among midfielders. 2 clean breaks a game is second only to Laumape. His tackling percentage rate though is 75, which for a 13 is a wee bit concerning. Like other guys who had 75% are the likes of Rico Iwane and Lester Faingonuku, who you can kind of expect to have that rate. You would expect ALB to have higher. But anyway, apart from that, I thought he was pretty bloody good. Wings, I snubbed this guy too many times throughout the season, but I ended up going with Jonah Nareki. He, interestingly, had 4.8 kicks per game, which is first by a mile for wingers. Very, very deadly boot of his. He's quite good at causing havoc when he puts that chip over the top and just bursts onto it with some pace. 4 tries and a try assist, averaged 66.6 run meters a game. 3.8 defenders beaten is second for wingers. 1.5 clean breaks a game, 4.1 tackles per game. His tackle completion rate 70%. So not great, but for a winger you expect it to be not the highest. But the dude was proper electric, X Factor. Didn't maybe quite cause as much havoc as we thought he might have in the final. But yeah, throughout the season he was certainly one to watch every game he played. Other winger, I've gone with this man, Sevu Reece. Continues to impress. 6 tries for Sevu. First, 3.75 defenders beaten per game is third for wingers. Has 2 clean breaks a game, 44.5 run meters a game. Tackle completion rate's 80%, which is actually really high for wingers. 4 tackles a game. Puts in a few kicks as well. The guy's just a finisher. He's got hella pace. He's got a heck of a step. He's good at stripping the ball in the tackle as well. So another Crusader goes on the board. And last man, I have gone with Geordie Barrett. A wee bit different from a lot of the other guys. He finishes with 2 tries and 3 try assists, which is a pretty bloody good return. 6 clean breaks and 26 defenders beaten is the first among the guys who played fullback, although I think his average per game is slightly lower than Will Jordan, but 5.2 defenders beaten per game is still pretty bloody high. There's not much in it. 17.2 kicks a game is huge. Remember, with Ruben Love playing, they often used him as their main boot rather than going through 10. 14 passes a game. Involvement levels is huge. Tackling percentage is 75%, which is, like, again, okay for an outside back, but you'd like it to be a bit higher. 52 run meters, 1.2 offloads a game, even 3 turnovers. So, yeah, Geordie Barrett. Geordie Barrett. Key man in the Hurricanes lot. I think he's staying with the Canes, which is good news for them, but yeah, he's certainly going to have a wee bit of competition for that fullback slot. Other guys who are worth a mention, a few props. Harry Johnson-Holmes and Gus Bell for the Tars are actually Pretty dynamic guys, carries and tries and stuff. Both the Alatoa brothers from the Crusaders and the Brumbies, that's Michael and Alan, had some pretty good numbers. Tamaiti Williams from the Crusaders looks the business coming through, getting some proper minutes in this season. Tupou, like I said, huge run meters, tackles at 50%. Like, what are you going to do? Kurt Eklund, as I mentioned, a hooker was worth a shout. I think it was probably neck and neck between him and Dixon. Locks, Scott Barrett. Also, ball in hand was one of the better guys this season. Kaoli Toyoti had pretty similar numbers to Tupolotu actually, but it was kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I went with the captain. Nick Frost from the Brumbies actually had some pretty good numbers as well. Needs to up his tackle rate. Lucy's Fergus Lee Warner from the Force is still. I'm amazed he's not on the Wallaby squad because he does so much on the stats. He's one of the top guys for carries and tackles and completion rates and just everything. He's just an absolute workhorse. Akira Ioane, defenders beaten, was huge. Liam Wright, tackle numbers, although his percentage not that high, but his work rate's huge. Faltini as well, big ball carrying unit. His numbers just weren't as good as Harry Wilson's, man. Harry Wilson was beating everybody this season. You could say Satutu as well. McDermott, AB at number 9, was maybe the top ball carrying. Number 9, Brad Weber had pretty good numbers defensively for a 9, which is sometimes an area they struggle with given the size is often a factor. Otiri Black had a heap of try assists, ran the show really well. Not the same player as Mo'unga, and it's always easier to go with a guy who gets the meters and the tries and the defenders beaten than the guy who sets people up. You know what I mean? But take nothing away from Otiri Black, had a great season. Fine Gonuku, like I mentioned, Himariko Ioane have some great numbers in the midfield going forward, but defensively and handling a bit sus. So, yeah. Another guy who I could have gone with if I wanted to go for an all-round kind of complete, solid package is honestly Michael Collins. I was very tempted to put him in instead of ALB because his tackling percentage was through the roof. His run meters and stuff were not as high. Tries not as high, but everything was like pretty good. Pretty good. And defensively really sound. So Michael Collins had a good season. He deserves a shout out. Obviously, Will Jordan at fullback has got the best ball in hand numbers still. His kicking game still not there. Defensively, he's a bit better than Geordie Barrett, but like in least terms of the pure numbers. But the handling is really bad. I think 3rd worst in the competition, and a couple of yellow cards. I think. Yeah, there were just a few too many kind of red flags. So I went with a man who wears yellow. But there you go. Team of the tournament for Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. Obviously, pretty happy that my Blues managed to get it done. We move on to internationals in July. Fiji, Tonga, Samoa are going to be on our shores here in New Zealand. We look forward to that. The Māori All Blacks will be playing as well. Plenty to like this side of the ditch. You got France going to play the Wallabies. You got England against the States and Canada. And you got Wales and Argentina. There's heaps of rugby coming up. British and Irish Lions are playing in South Africa. All kinds of stuff. But anyway, signing off from Trans-Tasman. You guys let me know your thoughts. Who would you have had in a team of the season? Obviously, probably just the Blues lineup, eh? But yeah, drop us a like, subscribe to the channel, support on Patreon, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.